Okay, let's move on. We talked about how to do lines A and B. We talked about how to do lines C and D. Now let's talk about how to do lines or rows E and F. So this time we're missing the original price, but we're given the current price and we're given the inflation rate. Okay, we're also missing the real GDP, so we're going to have to find that again. And finally, we're missing the consumer price index, so we'll be finding that again. Let's start with our first item over here. We're going to find our original price. To do that, we're going to use the formula for the inflation rate. Okay, because we have the inflation rate, we're going to fill that in right here. The inflation rate is 6.8%, so 0.068. If I move my decimal over, equals, supposed to put the current price minus the original price. Well, the current price is $3.86 minus the original price we don't know, so I'm going to call that my x, and divided by the original price. I'll call that my x also. Okay. First thing we have to do is get this x out of the denominator, so we're going to multiply by x, and what that will do is cancel it from the bottom. We did that on one side, so we also have to do it on the other. So now I have 0.068x equals 3.86 minus x. We want to get our x's on the same side, so this minus x here, I'm going to add. I have to do the same on the other side. Now notice I'm adding a 1x is what I'm adding here. Okay, so when I do that, I have 1 plus 0.068. I get 1.068x. My last job is to get x by itself. It's multiplied right now by 1.068. So if I divide by 1.068, I will have my answer. Okay, and when I do that, I get about, I have to round, but I get about $3.61. So my original price for this item, whatever we're talking about, was $3.61. Okay, our next empty space is that real GDP. So again, to find that, you take the GDP, like it says here, and subtract from it the GDP times the inflation rate. All right, so let's take a look. What would that look like? Well, our GDP this time is $7,650,000,000. We're going to subtract from that number multiplied by the inflation rate, which our inflation rate again for this example is 0.068. So we start by taking 0.068 times 7,650,000,000. And when we do that, we get 7,650,000,000 minus 520 million, 200,000. And we just subtract those. Okay, we get a real GDP of 129,800,000. So many zeros. Okay, so that would go right here on my real GDP. Okay, the last thing we have to find on this line is the consumer price index, which again is the current cost divided by the original cost times 100. So our current cost, if we look at our line here, was $3.86 divided by the original cost, which was $3.61, and then we're going to multiply by 100. Okay, we get 106.9. Okay, so that's how you do the blanks for line E. Line F would be very much the same. Again, I just gave you examples. I didn't use your exact numbers that you have, so make sure you just go through the same process, but with your numbers and not mine. Okay, so we've talked about the lines up above. We're down to lines or rows G and H. And this time I'm going to do row H to show you how to do these